Step into the grand arena where legends come to fight. Bodies clash and dreams ignite under the neon lights. Oh yeah. On what a day, he's the voice, calling every move. Amy and Justin Davis getting you in the groove. Oh yeah. Feel the energy, the thunder, as the crowd begins to roar. High-flying daredevils in a battle like never before. Oh yeah. From the turnbuckle to the mat, the action never stops. Talking wrestling takes you to the top. Oh yeah. Talking wrestling, it's a wild ride. From suplexes to body slams, we got it all inside. Get ready for the excitement, the drama, the show. Talking wrestling is ready to throw down. Oh yeah. Ooh, yeah.
Hello and welcome to Talking Wrestling with Pondwater Dave. My name is Justin Davis, and I am not joined this week by the First Lady of the Arn Anderson Fan Club because her internet has went the way of the dodo bird. I am joined by,
I said, oh no, not the dodo bird.
I am joined by another guy that's almost as old as the dodo bird. It's Pondwater Dave. What's going on, Dave?
Hi, Justin. Glad to be with you. Excited to be here this week. We got a big show planned for you. We got a great guest tonight. Unfortunately, life has hit Amy's house pretty hard today, and she's got a lot of technical difficulties and things she's dealing with, and she won't be able to join us tonight. But here with us now this gentleman has been in wrestling for over 30 years. You may remember him as ring announcer for WCW, TNA. Most recently, he was ring announcer at Ric Flair's last match. And along with Guy Evans, he's come out with this great book, Sitting Ringside. Please welcome to the show, Mr. David Penzer.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
How you doing, Mr. Penzer?
I'm good. Sorry, my camera and my laptop is not working right, so you can't see my ugly face, but you could superimpose like a Simpsons cartoon over me, and probably makes sense. But happy to be here and chat with you, and appreciate that you bought the book. And
I'm enjoying the book. We both seem to have a lot in common. We're the same age, and while your fandom was based in Florida, mine was based in Dallas. But I too tried to get in the wrestling business when I was 18 years old, and they turned me away. And unfortunately, I wasn't like you. I wasn't as persistent, and it took me another 20 years to get in. So that part of your book really resonated with me, that how persistent you were, and were eventually able to carve your way into the wrestling industry.
Hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
We can now.
Yeah, my internet's going in and out for some reason. So I apologize. You know what? I know this is live television, and look, I've had my fair share of live television mishaps. I was telling my wife, they were talking about the next NASCAR race, the Coca-Cola 500, I think it's called, in Charlotte, Saturday night in Charlotte, and I counted down the crowd to go live. 600. Oh, wow. I counted down the crowd to go live. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're on TV, and sky opened up and poured for the next 2 hours, as much as you could, bad as you could imagine. And so I know live TV could be challenging, but let me reset my router and then I'll jump back on here with you guys, if that's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good.
All right, sure.
Well, Justin,
All right.
what's been going on with you? Let's talk baseball for a minute.
Yeah, let's not talk about my beloved Cincinnati Reds, because that's
No.
been a little-
I want to talk about how they're ruining the game.
Okay.
You mentioned that you might be late if there was overtime. When y'all go into overtime, for
It's
one,
called
are your
extra innings in baseball, but yes, go ahead.
well, no, I'm just asking you.
Yeah.
Is it extra innings? Or do they, I mean, is there, do you, the league that you played for, up for, do y'all have a time limit on the games? Do y'all go like an hour and then the next,
No.
they play a certain amount of innings?
Yes.
And if it's a tie and they got extra innings, do they trick it up and put like 3 on base and
No.
with 1 out?
No.
Do they play traditional baseball?
We do still in high school in Ohio. We do. Some states have, like Kentucky, I believe they have went to those rules where you have someone on second to start the inning.
Oh,
Some
well,
states
I
have.
thought you might be
Ohio
refereeing.
still-
I thought you might be umping rec ball.
No. No.
I didn't know if you were doing that too. And no, my grandson played last night and it was tied, and they don't play a certain amount of innings. They play, after an hour, and it's blowing my mind. And then they put bases loaded with 1 out.
Oh, because you know why they do that? It's because they're
Because
on
they
a
completely
schedule.
screwed up the game of baseball.
Well, no, this is rec ball, so they're on a schedule. They're going to say, you guys are playing at 6, you guys are playing at 8, and basically they got to wrap those games up. So that's how they do that, to keep everyone on schedule on stuff like that. Now, if
Well, I
it's
played
real
rec ball
baseball,
when I was a kid, and we played baseball. I mean,
Now-
we played it like the rules
Right.
of the game that has worked for well over 100 years.
well, I can tell you that in the state of Ohio and umpiring, we have not went to what they call the International Tiebreaker, ITB, which is what you're talking about. Someone's on first base. Major League Baseball has went to that to try and speed their games up once it gets to extra innings.
Yeah, they hate
But
baseball.
we have not. Ohio high school has not went to that yet, so we're still playing the old-fashioned way.
Man, I saw a game the other day where the player was coming around third, the catcher got the ball, was standing on the baseline. The runner was safe because of the catcher was
In the lane.
in the lane.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, if the catcher had the ball way before the runner got there,
Then
it
it is
shouldn't
legal.
matter.
It
If
doesn't.
he was standing there impeding the runner and the ball wasn't there, I can
Then
see
you got
that.
a problem. Yes.
But I've got a problem with when the ball beats this guy and he keeps
Well-
on coming. To me, I ought to be able to do whatever I want to if I've got the
Well,
ball.
in Ohio high school, you can. Once you have the ball, all bets are off. There are no rules to the lane at that point, because but the problem is, when it comes in, are you blocking before you get the ball? So even if you catch it before the runner technically gets there, are you making him slide a certain way because you're blocking it before you have the ball? So there is a gray line in there, I guess, so to speak.
It was just, it's my latest old and barking at clouds thing that baseball has worked so well for so many years
I know.
that I cannot see
Don't get
why
Tony
we're
Schiavone on me now, Dave.
Why are we
He said,
screwing the game up now?
baseball. Listen,
Oh,
as
I
a-
was 3/4 hot last night. I just
I
like
can tell you something. The one thing I always said, and Teppy, can you put Darren Staley's comment up? Now let's break down the strike zone for Dave.
I know the
But,
strike zone. The strike zone is everywhere, but if it's in the
I know, but I
just
will
wondered,
say
since you were an
the one
umpire.
thing the one thing that made me mad, Dave, as a Cincinnati Reds fan, is the Reds are the first Major League Baseball team ever. So we are like old school traditionalists. We did not want the Reds to have a designated hitter. So I was against that coming to the National League. And you know what? Now it's been here for 2 years and it's okay. It didn't ruin the game. Everything's fine. And you know what? It just takes the nuance of the pitcher bunting or pitch hitting for the pitcher in this inning, and it just takes out more basically manager decisions, which no one goes to see the manager make decisions. So they probably made the right decision there, I think.
Well, Mr. Penzer's back. Let's let him back
All
in.
right.
Is that better?
So,
How you doing, Mr. Penzer?
hey, is this better?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay. Sorry about that. So let me chime in on that conversation. I think most of I'm a Rays fan, diehard. Most of the improvements that I didn't think I'd like have been good, but you got to stop the guy on second base and starting on second base in extra innings. They got to stop that.
I agree with you, Dave. I don't like that either. I umpire high school baseball. I just came back from a district high school tournament game. And we have not went to that yet. And I'm glad, because it kind of just, I don't know. It's not, I don't know. It doesn't feel right to me.
Well, what set me off is that last night at my grandson's game, they were tied and they loaded the bases with one out, and that's how they did the next inning. And I'm thinking the game worked. We played the whole game when I was a kid. We weren't on a clock.
The only thing I'll say that is when you were a kid playing not whole, everyone wasn't on a strict schedule. The next game just started whenever. These guys are on strict schedule. So I kind of get why they do that. And anyways, Dave, thank you. And we're glad to have you on the show. Sorry, we didn't need to go into baseball talk.
No, I don't. I enjoyed talking baseball.
As a Braves fan, I'm sure you do right now. They're kicking everyone's ass.
No, Rays. Tampa Bay.
Rays.
Oh, Rays. I thought you said Braves. Okay. Rays are not having their regular normal year, huh?
No, we got a lot of injuries. We're starting to get healthier, starting to do a little bit better. A good friend of mine who's a beat writer for the Rays, longtime beat writer, told me before the season, because I always check in with him to see, because I don't really pay a lot of attention to off-season spring training and all that.
Yeah.
But I asked him, and he told me, he said, if we could hang around 500 for the first couple of months, we got a shot. And we're right at 500. So I guess we got a shot. I don't know. But we probably have the best start. We probably have one of the best starting rotations in baseball on the injured list. It's insane.
Hey, we might have to meet up, because my dad and my brother and I go to a different ballpark every year to watch the Reds, and we're heading to Tampa in July. So
yeah, let me know for sure.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Heading to Tropicana for the first time.
I know it gets a lot of crap, Tropicana Field. It's not as bad as, it's not like sitting at the Reds game or sitting at the Braves game or Yankee Stadium, but, it's in a place where it rains a lot and it's uncomfortably warm. It's kind of nice to know that it's going to be 78 degrees and, there's not a bad seat in the house. Tickets are cheap. I went to a game during the Mets series. We had a Mets series here, and there was, half of the stadium were Mets fans, because it's probably cheaper for them to take a vacation and watch the Mets play 3 games for probably what the price of it would be for one game at Citi Field. So
we have Dave, I don't know if you can see over we have a thing that says private chat and comments. If you go to the comments, you can see all the listeners and their questions and things. And we have one from Domino, our friend Domino Chris, who did an amazing thing last season. He went to 30 parks in 30 days, driving all of them in 30 days by himself.
Oh my God. That's
So
incredible.
he has a question
awesome.
for you. Yeah. And he has a question for you. And it's what is your favorite ballpark that you've been to?
The one in Cleveland for the Indians.
The old one, or I guess Progressive Field. It's not old. Yeah.
No, the new one.
Yeah.
The new one. They have you walk down into the ground to get to it, and they have like picnic tables set up for families, and it's just it's a nice ballpark. Yankee Stadium is nice, but as a Rays fan, I'll never root for the Yankees.
Right.
But yeah, I've enjoyed Cleveland Indians.
I've enjoyed the George Steinbrenner Yankees documentary. Just came out on Peacock. I don't know if you all have checked that out yet, but it's pretty good. There's 2 episodes so far.
I have not. I have a picture with George Steinbrenner in my book.
As a lifelong Texas Rangers fan, I always thought that what you were saying about the park being comfortable, I always thought that that's all we needed was, a dome stadium where it wouldn't be so hot because Texas is miserable.
Yeah.
And in the summertime, and they finally built it, and I went to a game indoors, and it just didn't hit for me the same.
It doesn't. It really does kind of just feel. The first time I went to one was in Milwaukee, and it felt dark and dingy to me. But I went to Houston. We went to Houston last year, and it was 102 degrees outside, and I was awful glad that it was, like you said, covered. So.
Oh, I didn't say I wanted to go back outside. I just said it didn't hit the same for me.
Oh, by the way, hey, Domino, yeah, the Rays have fans. we just don't like to be going out an hour and a half each way to the stadium that's like in the middle of nowhere.
That's
it's
right.
closer to the ocean than it is to anything else. So, we actually have some of the highest television ratings of any franchise in baseball on a regular basis.
I went to a game in Cincinnati 2 years ago. We were playing the Rays, and I sat beside and met these couple guys from Tampa that were just coming up, and they go all over the place to follow them. So they got their fans out there.
Yeah, no. Like I said, we get great television ratings. It's just the stadium's in a bad place. As far as you want a stadium to be in the middle of all four areas that people are coming from, and instead it's on the West Coast. So there's only three places. Yeah. There's only three areas that could drive to it, and it's not the easiest drive in the world. So, I watch it. I watch the games on TV all the time, and yeah, we got a great fan base, but it's just we need a new stadium.
Dave, before we go talk about your book, where do I absolutely have to eat at in Tampa? What would you recommend?
What do you like?
I like everything, but I'm especially excited about the seafood because I love seafood. I seafood and I eat it, but I like seafood too.
I don't eat seafood, so that's not a question.
Well, then you won't. I hear the Colombia.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of Spanish cuisine. I'm more of a meat and potatoes guy. But my wife lives and dies by the Colombia. The salad is supposed to be incredible.
That's what I hear.
Yeah, so I definitely go there if I were you. It's just that it's really not my cup of tea, but I've not heard anything bad about it in 22 years of living here.
Thank you.
We've actually met before. We met in Nashville at Ric Flair's last match.
Yeah,
and
we did. I noticed that.
And I was going to ask you, especially since I'd read that Rick had kicked you out of a locker room. And I had a similar. I didn't get kicked out, but I had a similar "who the F are you" moment with him. I just was wondering, going from Rick throwing you out of locker rooms to introducing his last match. Where does that rank on all of the cool things that you've got to do as a ring announcer?
Oh, it was such an honor. And I told Rick about that story many years ago, and he was horrified. He has a temper, as we all saw recently, at a restaurant. And, he came back and he apologized and did the right thing, took responsibility for it. And, everybody has a temper, but when you're Ric Flair, people recognize you and tell people, oh, he lost his temper. Whereas if I was in a bar or a restaurant, I lost my temper, nobody know who the hell I was and nobody'd hear about it. So it was an honor. It was an honor. I was really freaked out. I don't know if you heard this, Dave, but Rick had said, I guess, a couple of weeks ago that he didn't know at the time, but he had a heart attack during that match.
That's what he said. And I mean, I was really concerned for him. I had a hard time when I slid in and made the 3 count. Immediately, we're trying to get him water. And for me, I was worried about it.
Oh, I was petrified at the last 5-10 minutes of that match. But I thought maybe because they had gone through it before, several times, many times, at Jay Lethal School in Tampa, and then when they had the ring set up in the building. But I thought maybe when he bled, because you could get lightheaded and stuff when you bleed, and I don't think that knowing Ric Flair, he might have done it in the practice. But you wouldn't think he would. So I thought maybe that was that. And I was glad that he finished the match and he was okay afterwards. But hearing that makes it even more scarier, man. If that's true, that could have been so much. What it could have been so bad, of a night.
Oh yeah.
So I'm glad for him that whatever happened, he got to have his last match, and he got to get it out of his system, and he could look back and still be alive to talk about it, because God forbid that scared the hell out of me.
Oh, I knew from the way the match was set up that he was going to be doing. I mean, even Darren Staley says that he did a heart attack spot during the match, and he actually tried to talk him out of it, but he did it, and then did the poke the eyes, dirtiest player in the game. But the way that he wanted to do the match is he wanted to look like a 73-year-old man. So until he wasn't responding at the end of the match, I didn't realize. I just thought he was selling, and then I realized when Andrade got nervous, just how bad of shape he was in, and was really desperately needing something to drink.
Yeah, well, thank God that it worked out, and that he's here. I'm sure he laughs about it now, but thank God that he's here to laugh about it. And it was the answer to your question. It was an absolute honor to be asked by Conrad. It was even cooler because I got to pull a Michael Buffer and just do the main event, which I don't think I've ever done before at a high level show. So, it was really strange being, hearing somebody else ring announcing and me being backstage shooting it up with the guys, old friends that were there that I had seen. But it made it even more special. So, it was. I'm so glad I was able to do that, and even more, I'm glad for Rick's sake it all worked out.
Yeah, me too. I'm the same. I'm so honored that Conrad thought enough of me to put me in that position. But he knows that Ric Flair is the reason I became a wrestling fan. So it all just an incredible event. And how about that backstage scene? It was a who's who, wasn't it? Have you ever been in a backstage environment that was that crazy?
Probably not, if I'm being honest. I mean, there was, the Undertaker would walk by you, and then Rey Mysterio and Dominic would walk by you, and then you'd see, Kid Rock. Not Kid Rock. Was it Kid Rock?
Kid Rock was there.
Yeah, Kid Rock was there, and it was insane. It was like a Grammy Award party or something. You know what I mean? It was pretty wild, and I got to take a lot of pictures, which I'm glad I did, because one of the things that I kind of feel bad about is the fact that, and nobody did back in the day, it was a different business, but I didn't take a lot of pictures with people back in the day. I saw that yesterday was the anniversary of Randy Savage passing away, and I saw that, and I thought to myself, damn, man, I wish I had a picture with Randy Savage, and I don't. But yeah, it's just it's a different world we live in. Everybody basically has a camera in their hand, if not two, and so it's just and there's not that stigma of being a mark if you ask for especially for somebody like me or you who didn't wrestle, if you ask for a picture. So I'm glad that that's more that's kind of changed over the years, and I've been taking a lot of pictures lately. Whenever I see somebody that I don't have a picture with that I want one with.
Yeah, it's the same here. It's really becoming more acceptable. I mean, everybody is more into get the picture. Be sure to take the picture now. But I mean, I remember when I first got started 20 years ago, even, I asked to get a picture in the locker room with Red Bastien. He was a guest that night. And getting that picture with Red Bastien, I got chewed out. So,
yep.
It's a habit that's hard to break when you know you're not supposed to do that. So I'm glad that it's becoming more widely accepted, because getting a picture with the legends that you grew up loving is one thing.
By the way, Justin, I see Alex. Okay. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, I was just going to say, Justin, I saw Allison Faye said Frenchies in Clearwater Beach. That is an institution.
Okay.
I mean, it's not bad. It's it's not bad. I would definitely go there just to say you went there if you're going to be in town. It's as much of an institution as the Columbia is. So,
gotcha.
But it's not the Columbia.
Got you. Thank you. I have a quick question. You brought up course, Randy Savage's name, it was the anniversary of his death yesterday. What was your personal experiences with Randy? We hear stories of, back in the day of him being paranoid, of him being very meticulous about his matches, but you didn't have to probably deal with that. How was your experiences with him?
Sometimes Randy was standoffish, and if I would shake his hand when I saw him, and sometimes he'd say hello, hey Penzer, and he'd walk by. Sometimes he'd stop to talk. I never expected anything, but yeah, I definitely, he as I got to know him more, he opened up a bit more. He just, he's just a kind of a private person, and.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, his entrance music is my favorite entrance music of all time, and the fact that I got to announce that over that music so many times,
Oh yeah,
is I mean, something that I'll always remember and cherish. That was my favorite entrance music when he debuted in WWF. So I mean,
right.
it's not like I just liked it when he came to WCW. I always loved it. I thought it was a perfect entrance music, pomp and circumstance. But
Yep.
yeah, Randy's a good guy. There was one point that we did a house show in Tallahassee, and my sister was going to University of Florida, and so Randy decided he had a crush on my sister. So then he would talk to me a little bit more, and every time I'd see him on TV, hey, I can't do a Macho Man impression, but
Hey, Dave, where's your sister at?
yeah, how's your sister doing? And I finally had to say, and they hung out at the bar afterwards, but had a drink and stuff. And for my sister, it was cool that, a guy like Randy Savage, showed her attention, but, she was 18 years old. So,
Right.
finally I had to tell Randy, hey, Randy, maybe down the road when she graduates college, but I don't think it's going to happen now. I'm just being honest with you. I don't want to lead you on. And he wasn't upset, but, but those couple of weeks before when he met her, and, he was a lot more friendly.
That's a good story. You talk about the music, because I think to us fans growing up, Dave, the music is important, right? Like it kind of means something to us. And I think in the WWE late 80s era, Miss Elizabeth kind of made that theme song kind of just went perfect with Elizabeth being there, and it kind of made it feel classy in a way,
No, 100% for sure. And you mentioned music. I'll never forget being a teenager watching Georgia Championship Wrestling, probably in the 79, 80. And all of a sudden, it was the version of Freebird that usually played on radios was the live version that was taken at the Fox Theater. But there was a version in the studio without the cheering and all that. And all of a sudden that music hit, and out comes Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy and Buddy Roberts with that music in the background. And they did the whole promo with the music in the background. And Michael Hayes was introducing everybody. I'll never forget it. I fell in love with the team. I fell in love with the song.
Yeah.
And it's a memory now, 1980. So what, 40 years later,
A long time ago.
that I still, I can't remember what I had for dinner an hour ago, but I still remember that vividly. And, that's, where that music could add into the experience for sure. When the rock music hits, it's funny because I was waiting for it when the Rock's music hit at WrestleMania. They wanted to boo him, but instinctively when his music hit, they cheered him, and then they started booing him once they realized they were quote unquote supposed to boo him. But yeah, it's become an important part of the industry, and I'll never forget the Freebirds coming out and changing the course of history as far as music in the wrestling business goes.
I think why music is important to us is just like music in the regular music business. I heard a song the other day on the radio, and it brought me back to 1999 when I was a freshman in high school, and it made me remember memories of where I was when I heard that song. And I think you do that the same way with wrestling music. It puts you back to where you were when that was going on.
100%. Because I can't hear Smooth Operator without thinking about Rick Rude. I can't hear We Are Family without thinking about Iceman King Parsons. Freebird, it's always Michael Hayes with the spotlight on him, debuting in Fort Worth, Texas. That's it. Any of the LaGranges, the Von Erichs, sharp dressed man it's always Jimmy Garvin or the Fantastics. It pops into my head. And, fortunately, there's a few wrestlers today that have mainstream musics like Cult of Personality. Even the casual fans will probably think about CM Punk now. And forever now with AEW licensing music, there's a few fans that today will get that, they'll hear a classic song on the radio and it'll take them back to a wrestling memory.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I was always a big fan of the song Jane by Jefferson Starship. But now when I hear it come on the radio, I think Orange Cassidy, because that's his song. So,
yeah.
It's just, you're 100% right. It's just, it helps ingrain the memory, the song and the memory and the wrestler, is just, music has really changed the wrestling business in a great way. And, and that was one of the fun things, when I was doing my thing is, having to get to introduce Ric Flair to, his infamous song and, Hulk Hogan to American Made, even though that wasn't what he came out to when I fell in love with Hulkamania. It was Eye of the Tiger. But they soon discovered that they had to pay money to use those songs, and so they pivoted. Actually, I don't know if you know this, but American Made was actually or Real American. There was two songs, but Real American, the one he used in WWE at WWF, was actually written for Wyndham and Rotundo.
Yeah. Yeah, they had it for a little bit there before.
Yeah.
Did you still get, like you said, Flair's music or Macho Man's when you're announcing their name in the ring? Would you still kind of get goosebumps right as you're getting ready to talk because the crowd would go crazy when that music hit?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It doesn't go. You don't get used to it. At least I didn't.
Yeah.
I can't speak for anybody else, but growing up a fan since I was 11 years old back in 1977 and desperately wanting to be a part of this and, as a 5'6" non-athletic person who had no chance. And that's what a lot of the book's about. What I call impossible journey into the pro wrestling business in the 1990s. But it never gets old. When I was in Impact just recently, up until the end of last year, there would be certain people would come back, with certain songs that would remind me. Eddie Edwards had a catchy theme song. He doesn't use it anymore because he's a heel. Even the Joe Hendry song. You're in a bar, walking back to your room at 2:00 in the morning that night, and all of a sudden the Joe Hendry song goes off in your head, and it's like you can't get it out. But yeah, I still get it's still a part of the experience. To me, I'm still a fan. I'm in love with the wrestling business as much as I was when I was 11 years old and I turned on Championship Wrestling from Florida in 1977. So it's always exciting, man. And I would, I got to live it with Ric Flair, but man, just one more chance to intro Randy under Pop and Circumstance, man. Just thinking about gives me goosebumps, although I know it's not possible, unfortunately. But yeah, I got lucky with Rick though that he gave me one. He had his last match, but he gave me one more chance.
I'm just mad you never got to announce to the cool ass Bret Hart music when he got to WCW. They gave him that shitty country and western music.
Yeah. WCW is an interesting time. A lot of great stuff happened and a lot of not so great stuff happened. I like, if you read the book, you'll notice that I really focus on the great stuff and not so much on the bad stuff. I do talk about Vince Russo a little bit, and it's not on a personal level. I'm not like Jim Cornette wishing he was dead. I just don't think he was very good at what his job was. At least I didn't enjoy that style, and that's fine. Maybe some people did. I mention all the time that there's a guy named Brett Lauderdale who I consider a friend and a brilliant businessman who runs Game Changer Wrestling. But once you take a light bulb out and smash it over a wrestler, you've lost me. Sting's last match, they lost me with all that glass. I still watch because it was Sting's last match, but it took something away from it. But that's just me. There's people who love it. There's people who love it. And so who am I to say that I'm right and they're wrong? You know, who am I to say that even, you know, as far as that Russo was a bad booker and you know, I say that in my book, but that's my opinion. Everything in that book is my opinion.
Dave, somebody out there loved WCW 2000 and 2001. Somebody did. I don't know.
Hey, but
I
he's
don't know
right.
who it is, but they did.
I mean, you were very respectful in your book when you. I mean, you call him the worst booker to ever do it, but it was a respectful. I mean, it wasn't personal. It didn't come off vindictive or.
No.
I mean, I've definitely heard people say worse about him.
I don't think Dave's the first person to strap on that. You know.
Yeah. I just don't understand the booking style as far as professional wrestling. You want to see a car crash? I get it. But the only problem with a car crash is you can't watch 3 hours of a car crash. You know, you wait, you're in traffic because there's a car crash and you want to see what the crash looks like, but then you see it and then like a minute later, you're not thinking about it again. But, you know, if you do 3 hours of car crash and all of a sudden, who gives a shit? So,
Right.
Well,
so, and that was, again, just my opinion, you know. I know there's others that you know, Disco's reading my book right now, and I'm going to be on Keeping It 100 with Conan and Disco coming up here soon. And I know Disco is going to take me to task for what I wrote about Russo, and that's fine. And, you know, it's just, you know, that's just two people what they like. And you know, that's the one thing about wrestling these days is it's so tribal on, you know, social media. You know, I could guarantee you that while everybody in every company takes a lot of pride that they're doing well and that their company's doing well, I could guarantee you there's not one person in any one company that wishes the other company will go out of business. That already happened before. I lived it. It took a long, long time for the business to recover, like 20 years, 25 years. And I can guarantee you there's no one out there. It's just the fans that are taking sides and picking tribes. The wrestling fans, the wrestlers are just hoping that, you know, look, a wrestler in one company might get a better contract with another company, or they might be able to use that other contract to get more money. So it's beneficial to them. So I hate that it's become tribal like that. I just wish everybody would root for professional wrestling. And again, if you don't like something, don't watch it. You know, I don't watch Game Changer, although I think the world of the guy who runs it, like I said, and I think he's brilliant, but it's just not something I like to watch.
That Before was an incredible atmosphere. I actually got to referee a Game Changer show there in Nashville, and I've never experienced a crowd that way.
Yeah.
But the fact that I had to borrow a pair of gloves, like mechanic gloves, to go out after a match because there's a chance that I'm going to slap the mat and get glass in my hand. That's not my thing. I mean, I'm not begrudging them. I just think that I'm old school that less is more.
Yeah.
I need it to make sense. I just need it. I need you to construct a match within the framework of the rules.
But it makes money. He puts 1,000 to 2,000, maybe 3,000 people into buildings every weekend. And so, you know, you got to tip your cap and acknowledge acknowledge that there's a crowd that wants to see that. And if there's a crowd that wants to see it, you should definitely do it. I just don't happen to be one of those people, but I don't begrudge the fans who go. God bless them.
Just because I don't like it doesn't mean I want it to go away. I mean, I love Mance Warner, and I love that Mance works regularly. He makes a living as a professional wrestler.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that like with that type of crowd, Dave, for you and for us watching old school wrestling, to you it buries the referee. And how can you make a believable match when you're burying the referee like that? I think to that crowd, they don't care. They know they're willing.
There's no rules.
Right. They're willing to go with whatever because they're willing to suspend all disbelief. They ain't even trying to pretend like it's real in a way. You know what I mean? I guess.
No, I remember about 6-7 years ago, I was in Tijuana on a vacation, and AAA was playing the Auditorio. And I reached out to Conan and said, "Hey, I'm in Tijuana. I'd love to come see you." He said, "Why don't you come to the show?" So I came to the show. I actually sat at the gorilla position next to him. And at one point in one of the main event matches, you know, there was plunder and nobody was tagging in and out and nobody was getting disqualified. And Conan, is it okay to curse on the show?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Conan looked
Absolutely.
at me and said, "Penzer, you don't have a fucking clue what you're watching, do you?" And I said, "Not really." He said, "It's totally different down here. This is what they expect. You don't give them this, then they don't come back." I said, "Well," and I said to him what I just said to you. Ain't my cup of tea necessarily, but if it draws, if that's what they want, you got to give it to them.
Yes, sir. You mentioned in your book about Eric Bischoff that he didn't hardly acknowledge you. When you were there,
it wasn't just me.
Well, right, but I asked you that to ask you one of the coolest things I read in your book that I don't know how I can say it made me proud. A proud moment that you came back through the curtain and got a compliment from Shane McMahon.
I did.
And Shane McMahon didn't have to come down and say anything nice to anybody.
No, I did. I decided that no matter what happened afterwards, and it was very much in doubt whether this was the end of the road for me. But I'd say chances were better that it was the end of the road than not. It ended up working out, and I'm grateful. I decided that I was going to go out there. I was going to leave it all on the table. I was going to make sure that crowd was riled up. I was going to get them yelling and screaming, keep them interested in the whole show, and just work my ass off. And I did that, not expecting anything to, happen. And I did come through the curtain at the end after I said goodnight to the crowd, and Shane was there, and he said, and he was the only one at go position. Everybody else had left. It was the end of it was the last night show. There's no reason to hang around. And yeah, like I say in the book, he said, "Hey, that was really, really good out there." I come to find out that in WWE and WWF, they didn't really have the ring announcer talk in between matches and get the crowd going. It was more video packages, and it was controlled by the truck. So in hindsight, that's probably why he got to see something different than he had seen, back in his, years growing up in the business. But still, that meant the world to me, and I don't know, I've seen Shane again so far, but I don't even know that he remembers that was me. We've never had a conversation of hey, Shane, this is David Penzer. Remember me? You put me over. We've never had that conversation, but so he probably never thought of it again. But it meant a lot to me. It really did. And that's not a slight. And that's not a slight on Eric in any way. I want to be sure.
Oh yeah, of course.
Shane, came there and he wasn't running a wrestling company. He was pretending that he bought a wrestling company. Eric was running a wrestling company. Not only that they didn't own, but that the people that owned it didn't want a wrestling company other than the guy in charge, and made his life a living hell. So you can't compare apples to apples. I've gotten to know Eric since then, and I consider Eric a good friend. And Eric was under a ton of pressure, and I think he'd admit that.
What I think?
And the reason I mentioned it was just like that. As your boss, you really you would have liked an attaboy or something. And Eric wasn't that guy doing that. But just out of the blue, Shane McMahon shows up and he gives you that.
Yeah.
I
didn't have a lot of confidence, unfortunately. And I didn't have a contract. I was an employee, so it wasn't like I was guaranteed in for, another year or two. And so, there's a part of me that, was lacking confidence. Not confidence that I could go out and do the job. I had a ton of confidence I could go out and do the job at a high level, but confidence that I was valuable to the company. In hindsight, I look back and that's so silly, but when you're going through it, that's what you feel. So, yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, it would have been nice to, like you said, get a couple of attaboys. But when it mattered, when it really mattered on a personal and professional level, Eric went to bat for me and put me over. And that meant a lot back then, and it means a lot now. And yeah, it's funny, 30 years later, and you look back and say, why did you lack so much confidence? And I don't have an answer to that. I think because I was so afraid that this was all going to end, and I didn't want it to. And thank God it hasn't.
Well, and you watch guys get fired every day, so you knew it could probably happen to you at any point. What I wanted to to bring up. Well, go ahead. I'm sorry,
No,
Dave.
go ahead with your. Go ahead and ask him the question that you were curious about before we started.
I just lost my train of thought and lost my question. So, oh no, I just thought of it. Shane McMahon. We were talking about him. I think part of that, he kind of came up refereeing every now and then and working the ring crew and kind of came up through that. And I think he may have noticed your hard work and just appreciated it. Do you think that was,
Yeah, I don't know what it was. It was just nice to hear in a time where it would have been nice to hear something nice. You know what I mean? If that was the way I was going to go out, with Shane McMahon saying, "Hey, great job, kid," that's sort of the end of it. It's kind of the end of a cool movie ending. Not to say my life should be a movie, but you know what I mean. It's the end of a story, and yeah, it meant a lot. And like I said in the book, then we all went out and got drunk. Yeah. Not Shane. Shane might have gotten drunk on the plane, but he didn't get drunk with us. But
I want to ask you about the back of your book. Once you get through with the story, the book is full of booking sheets and formats, and it's just it's incredible memorabilia. And correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't this original project for your book going to be a scrapbook and not an autobiography?
It was. I found that in my cleaning out my desk about a year and a half ago. And I knew I had something, man. Who doesn't, I'm shocked the last Nitro format never got out. And it's funny, me and Guy Evans, we would tell some people about the book while we were planning it, but we never, ever said to anybody. I don't even think I said to my wife, although I would have if she cared, that, we got the last Nitro format because we were always afraid that somebody would jump in there and get it out before we got it out. But yeah, I found all this treasure trove of incredible history and rare formats and documents. And, I went on Twitter and I took a picture of one of the WCW Saturday Night formats from the 95, I think. And I said, who would be interested in this? And people jumped on it. And then I would say, well, what do you think it's worth? What's the best way to get it out there? Because, once it's sort of out there, other people can make copies and send it to their friends and stuff. And a guy had contacted me and said, hey, we should do a scrapbook. And I said, that's a wonderful idea. And that's what it was going to be. And then about 3 months in, after talking to him a lot and him hearing my story, he made a executive decision that it was going to become an autobiography with bonus formats at the end. And, I trusted him because he's such a fantastic writer that he could, he said to me, you don't understand, but your story is fascinating. And I didn't feel like it is. Now that I hear people that have read the book talking about it, perhaps it really was. But me writing a book would have been the most boring ass thing you could do. Luckily, I've had a lot of luck in this business, and it's continued with finding Guy Evans. And he wove my story so beautifully that I'm forever grateful. And did such a great job with it. I like to tell people at the end, right before when we started doing like the final editing process, I had not seen the book up until then. I had just told the stories, and he taped them, and he would send me a chapter or two a night. And I remember after I got the third chapter, I looked up at my wife and I said, this is my story, and I can't wait to see what's happening in chapter 4. Because the way he tells it is so captivating that I was a mark for my own story. So yeah, I got very lucky, and that extra material is great. If we have all kinds of, you could go to Amazon and buy the book, but we have all kinds of bundles at davidpenzerbook.com, davidpenzerbook, all one word.com. And we have all kinds of bundles where you could get formats. And, I've heard a lot of people say they're going to take that last Nitro format to WrestleCon or where, StarCast or whatever. Yeah. And get Flair and Sting to sign, the last match ever Nitro on the format. Hang it in their office. I think I might do the same thing, quite frankly. But so it's kind of weird. We've created a kind of a new form of memorabilia, and I wear that as a badge of honor.
That's awesome, man. I love Guy Evans's Nitro book. That's where I was first introduced to him. Fantastically written book. It explains if you guys listening have never read it, please go read it. It explains the beginning and the end
It's a lot of
and
reading.
why the demise of Nitro happened. It is a fantastically written book, and it's not one reason, it's not two reasons. It's a lot of reasons kind of balled up into a web, and Guy Evans explains that so well. So, yeah, I'm excited to read this one. I have not gotten a chance to read it yet, David, but I'm going to here soon, and I cannot wait.
Yeah, I learned so much by reading Nitro. It's crazy. I lived it, and I actually wrote a book about it. But I learned so much about what was going on a corporate level by reading Nitro. I was shielded from all that, and thank God I was, or else I would have been a nervous wreck. But but I didn't know all the stuff was going on. I didn't know that, I knew Turner was the reason we were still there, but I didn't realize how much despised the executives in Turner Broadcasting. And later when he merged and lost power, I didn't realize how much they despised having professional wrestling on their networks and in their
Eric
brand.
seemed to be shielding everyone from that. Eric knew, but I don't know that he let everyone else know.
I don't know who else knew, but I'm glad I didn't know, because it'd drive me nuts. But yeah, and he interviewed people that like probably took wrestling off their resume the day the company was sold. Never thought about it again. And somehow he was able to get these people not only to get on the phone with them, but give quotes about what went on. He likes to joke around that it's his English accent. He may not be wrong, because I
think that's probably part of it.
Yeah,
they just seem nicer on the phone.
I mean, I can't imagine not only finding those people, but getting those people who never wanted to talk about wrestling again. I'm on the record. I tell them this all the time. It's insane. I have the Nitro book on my coffee table, and I'll pick it up and I'll start in the middle somewhere, and I'll read it, 10 or 12 pages, 20 pages, whatever. And and it never ceases to I don't want to downplay my own book, but if you have a chance to get my book and Nitro, definitely I would say Nitro is must read. Mine is must see because of the formats, if not anything else.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to have to go. I've got the Nitro book, but I'm going to probably have to go audio if I'm ever going to finish it. And he told me it was over 14 hours. The audio book was.
I did finish it. It's a deep dive, that's for sure. If you need some summer reading, if you're a teacher like me and you're off in summer, you can buy it.
But if you want a book that's an easy read, that's a lot of fun to read, it's a great story, I highly recommend Sitting Ringside. I own a lot of wrestling books. I don't read a lot of wrestling books, because I will dip out and go to an audio book if it's available. But I've sat down. I got your book Saturday, and we had a party at the house. And as soon as everybody was gone, I picked it up, started reading, and I've really thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm not just telling you that because you're on the show. It's, I mean, anybody that knows me knows that I don't have the patience just to sit and read a book cover to cover. But your story resonates with me so much. It kind of parallels mistakes I've made, because like I said, we're the same age. I'm sure we're the same type of fan, and you persevered where I didn't, and you've got a lot of cool stories. In fact, one of my favorite stories in the whole book, I don't want to give anything away, but you had an oh shit moment while flying first class.
Uh-oh.
Which one is that? Is that the Scott Steiner thing?
No, well, no, kind of, but no, it was the music.
Oh, yeah. It was quite a no shit moment, and it very easily, I'll say it like this: if things were like they are today, with having to hang on to a customer service hotline for 45 minutes, that kind of stuff, I would have been fired on the spot the next day. There's not a doubt in my mind. Not a doubt in my mind. It's not my non-confidence. It's just the fact that I've been around this 30 years, and I know if Hulk Hogan doesn't have his music and you're the one who to blame, you don't come back. So luckily I was able to get the pilot to call down, and they maneuvered a little switcheroo on my transfer in Atlanta. And I was able to get there by the second match. And there's also a very important lesson that Kevin Sullivan taught me, a life lesson that night. And I was talking about this earlier today with somebody else. I'll never forget where I was standing in the Amway Arena in Orlando when he gave me taught me this lesson. And it basically was, everybody screws up. If you make excuses, people roll their eyes and think you don't think that much of you. If you just say, hey, I messed up, I'm sorry, I'll try never to do it again and take responsibility for it, they respect you. And because I was trying to put the heat on somebody else on why this all happened. And it's a lesson that I immediately in my life have always, as soon as Kevin told me that, I've always lived by that. I've taught my kids to live by that. If I have grandkids, I'll tell them to live by that. It's one of the most valuable lessons anybody ever gave me in life. And if you read the book, my dad was my hero and gave me so many lessons, but that's right up there with anything my dad taught me was that thing that Kevin taught me. So, and Kevin writes the foreword of the book. And, I'm just so thrilled that he was able to do that and willing to do that. And, it's kind of full circle because Kevin was at the first wrestling show. He wrestled on the first wrestling show I ever saw live in 1977. And, so to be able to come full circle and all my interactions with him and he's one of the smartest guys I've ever met. And, I'm so happy he was able to write the foreword, and I'm happy and proud to call him my friend to this day.
Well, I wanted to ask you a question about him, and I'm glad you brought his name up. He has joined ad-free shows with Conrad Thompson recently and listening. And of course, he's had a medical issue, and we pray that he's doing okay. I've not heard how he's doing. I hope he's doing good. But listening to him kind of just spew his knowledge on a podcast about anything, he kind of jumps on to all the topics. It just comes across to me as kind of grandfatherly advice. And that's what you're telling us that he pretty much gave you back then. He comes across on the podcast now like a sweet grandpa, just kind of,
And he wasn't mad at me. He actually liked me and he wanted to help me. And that's why he gave me that advice. And like I said, I've lived by it for, 25 years plus. But longer than that, because my kids are 27 and 29 and I taught it to my kids. So longer than that. But he's an intelligent guy. When it comes to the wrestling business, he's intelligent. When it comes to life, he's intelligent. And world history, he's intelligent. One of the smartest guys I think I've ever met in so many different facets. And it's always blast to talk with him or listen to the podcast or just listen to Kevin Sullivan telling stories because he's a bastion of knowledge. And and he could get his points across in an entertaining way. Somebody could be knowledgeable but boring, but Kevin's not only knowledgeable and smart, but he's also entertaining, and that's I think one of the reasons he's so successful.
He seems to always have reasoning behind his opinions and smart reasoning.
Sure.
And I just feel like I don't know that he was any different in 1995 than he is right now, but I feel like he was, I don't know, just a fun guy and a nice guy to be around back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, he was stressed out too at times, but
he was running the show.
Everybody is stressed out at times, but no, great guy, great person, one of my favorite people in the wrestling business, and that covers a lot of ground. And like I said, such an honor to not only grow up watching him as one of my favorite wrestlers, but then to get to know him and for him to take me under his wing and see something in me that I wasn't sure was there and foster that for me. He didn't have to do that. It didn't help him. I wasn't, the grandson of the owner of the company or anything. Right. It did nothing for him. He didn't have to take me under his wing. There's so many people that didn't have to help me that did. And I'll forever be grateful. And that's all I could say. I can never pay it back. I could pay it forward, but I can never pay it back. And just to tell people how much it meant to me, that they saw something in me and helped me live my dream for 30 years.
I always thought it was cool that, and you give him a lot of credit in your book, is Bob Roop. That Bob Roop went out of his way for you. And in wrestling is just such a It's such a it was more then than now. It's such a business where you're always looking out for yourself because you don't want to. They're always wrestlers look out for themselves because they don't want to lose out to somebody else. But then you have some that, like Bob Roop, went out of his way for you just to put in a good word with Ole Anderson, who's probably one of the harshest people by reputation.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just really, really good of him that he did that for you.
I think one of the reasons why so many people did that for me is because I didn't come off as a threat to them in any way, shape, or form. I just came off as an enthusiastic person who loved the business and wanted to learn as much as I can and do as much as I could, but knew my place and wasn't trying to, run the show or take over or take anybody's spot or anything like that. And I think, I think, and I don't know that I was consciously doing that, but as I look back, I think that's one of the reasons why so many different people who didn't have to, who shouldn't have, quite frankly, opened up and gave me opportunities that I really didn't deserve in the state of professional wrestling at that time.
Well, I got one last question for you before I get you out of here.
I got one too, so we got two.
Okay.
All right.
Well, you go ahead, Justin, because mine's a good one.
All
To
right.
finish with.
I don't mean to be a dick about this question, Dave, but when you would do like Starrcade or whatever, and they bring in Michael Buffer to announce the main event, how did you feel about it? Did it make you mad, or were you okay with it?
Not at all. I'd have done it too. If I was running the company, I would have done it too. I mean,
Okay.
that catchphrase and the build up to it amidst so much emotion, which is what you want from a main event of a major show. I believe in something called capitalism. I always have. In my own way, I live the American dream. I'm not I don't have $100 million to my name like Michael does. God bless him. But I've got to live my dream through capitalism, and everybody has an opportunity if they work hard and they get the right breaks. And he came up with a catchphrase that got over. It's still over, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And it's iconic. And no, I was not angry at all. I totally respected him. And he was a great guy too.
Well, I mean, I figured that would be your attitude toward it. Like I said, I hadn't read the book yet. I didn't know if you commented on that, but I just thought about that when I was kind of thinking about you and kind of doing some research. I'm like, I don't know, some guys would get hot about that, but also, not too many announcers are known by name and their catchphrases are known. He was probably the only one in the world at that time. So why would you not? Right.
Yeah, somebody said I've always wondered how much Buffer made in WCW. I'm not sure, but if I was a betting man, I'd say between $6,000 and $10,000 an appearance.
Wow.
Yeah.
Probably based on if it was a Nitro or if it was a pay-per-view. Maybe 5, but nothing less than 5. I can't imagine him even showing up for less than 5. And that's a lot of money now. It was a lot of money then. But like I said, capitalism, man. That's the name of the game. Look at Conrad. You talk about Conrad. Yeah. Conrad's living the dream. I heard he moved out of the Conradison. I never got to see it, but he got to not only be a very successful businessman in the mortgage business, but then parlayed that into being the king of podcasting in the pro wrestling business, which we all did. He grew up loving, and so that's capitalism, man. You can't be mad at that.
Absolutely.
Some people are, but I can't get with it.
Well, I'm going to put myself on mute before Dave asks his question before you jump out of here. I just want to say thank you your answers have been amazing, and thank you for answering all my questions as honestly as you have. And I can't wait to read the book.
Yeah, please do. And hit me up when you're coming to Tampa. And if I'm in town, we'll go see your Rays game. Before you guys wrap this up, though, I do want to say, and you, Dave, as well, if any of you guys read the book, when you read the book, if you could please go to Amazon and leave a review, I would greatly appreciate it. That's something that's important to me, and I want to know people's honest feelings. So, Dave, you got your homework.
Yes, sir. My final question for you, I wanted to, as David Penzer, the wrestling fan, you mentioned you started going to wrestling in '77 in the Florida territory. What's your favorite match you saw live in the Florida territory?
Oh man, put me on the spot on the last one. God, I don't know if I can narrow it down to just one. If I had to pick a memorable one, and I think I talk about it in the book, it was when Dusty Rhodes was wrestling as the Midnight Rider, and he had lost a match to Kevin Sullivan, like a lose or leave town match, and he came back as the Midnight Rider. Obviously, everybody knew it was Dusty, but the gimmick was if he was ever unmasked and it was proved to be Dusty, he would be suspended indefinitely by the National Wrestling Alliance. So there was a long thing that built up to a match in Miami Beach at the convention center. I remember, forget, Piper was there. They brought in all kinds of people, and I was in the second row. And it was Dusty Rhodes versus the Midnight Rider. I mean, Midnight Rider versus Ric Flair for the World Championship. And if Dusty loses, he has to unmask. So, people joke about the Dusty finish, but there was no way to get out of that one. At least they didn't, thank God. But they did eventually, but it made sense. It was logical. But so Dusty pins Flair, Midnight Rider pins Flair. Bob Geigel, who was the president of the NWA, was the special referee. And we go home thinking the Midnight Rider's the new world heavyweight champion. And we just saw a title change, which now is not that big a deal. But at the time, as rarely as the NWA championship changed hands, if you got to see that live, that was something you'll remember for the rest of your life. And, we thought we did. And then come to find out. And the funny part, knowing what I know now, is they taped the next part before they even did the match because they tape on Wednesday mornings and then they fly down to Miami on Wednesday afternoon and do the matches in Miami on Wednesday. So they'd already taped the whole gimmick. But I didn't know that at the time. I turned on my TV on Saturday like I always did, 12 o'clock noon, Channel 6. And, it was logical. They said that, that obviously, and Gordon Soley's the perfect person to take you through this. Obviously, the president of the NWA needs to know who the world champion is. And, he needs to be able to book your plane flights and needs to know your identity. And, but Bob Geigel asked the Midnight Rider in private to unmask after he won the world title, and Midnight Rider wouldn't because obviously it would have been Dusty, and Dusty would have been suspended indefinitely. It made a ton of sense. And so he gave up the title back to Ric Flair. And still to this day, it was one of the best angles, I think. And people talk about the Dusty finish and all that. Look, nobody's perfect. But it's stuff like that that made him an absolute legend and made him one of the greatest bookers in the history of the business. Who comes up with that? I mean, that's so layered. That's so layered. And it makes thorough sense. You don't have to suspend disbelief. Obviously, Dusty, if he had unmasked in front of the president of the company that he was working for, he would have been suspended indefinitely. So he didn't. He gave the title back. That probably was my coolest memory that I saw live. But there's so many that I've got to see in the Florida territory, and then my entire career.
We had a great seat for it, that's for sure.
Sit in ringside, baby.
And
we had a great seat tonight listening to you talk, David. Thank you so much for being on our show.
My pleasure.
Sitting at Ringside, Volume 1, which means there's going to be a Volume 2.
October,
I think that means there's going to be a Volume 2. And if there is, we sure hope you'll come back and talk to us about it.
Yeah, October. I'd be happy to, definitely. And I look forward to coming back and chatting with you guys about what happened after WCW. The next 20 years of my life and my experiences in the wrestling business, and there's a lot to pack in there. So, and I'll definitely be talking about Flair's last match. So, I might even give Pondwater Dave a tip of the cap in the book.
The crazy thing is, we wanted to talk about so much
as it is.
We wanted to talk about so much more, and there's just so much to touch on that it takes up an hour just to talk about a few things, David. But we really appreciate it.
I'm happy to come back anytime, man. Just contact me or contact Guy, and I can come back. I'm happy to come back every month, 6 weeks, just to talk.
Absolutely.
We don't have to promote the book.
I
love talking about wrestling. I have a passion for it, and you guys obviously have a passion for it. So 3 people have a passion for the same thing, who in one way or another were able to be involved more than just a fan purchasing a ticket is a cool conversation to me, and one that I would love to have anytime.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. best of luck with your book. It's a tremendous book. I love it, and I can't wait to see what comes next.
Neither could I. Thank you guys so much, and stay in touch. I mean that. I'm not just full of crap. I mean that. We'll do this again sometime sooner.
Well,
I'll be seeing
appreciate
you
it.
in Tampa at the end of July, Dave. We'll make it happen.
All right, buddy. All right, you guys have a great night. Thank you for having me. It was an honor.
Thank you, David Penzer, everyone. How cool was that?
That was a blast. I was hanging. I mean, every answer was a story. It was fun.
And and I know so much more about it because I've been nonstop since Saturday trying to read this, and
that's what I knew you had a lot, and I knew I haven't read it yet, so I'll have more. I'm like, we got a lot more questions.
Well, and you don't want to give away. I mean, the man's got a book he wants everybody to read, so you don't want to give away too much of it.
And that's why I wanted to ask him more details about some answers, and I knew he was kind of being cagey about some of them. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna just follow up.
But I'm glad that he talked about the Midnight Rider experience because one of my questions I had for him, knowing that he left there thinking he saw the world title change hands that night. And as y'all have heard me say 150,000 times, that seeing the NWA title change hands was really cool in the 80s because it didn't happen all the time. It was a big deal. Right. But it's a great book, and I can't thank him and Guy enough for coming on our show and promoting it and getting the opportunity to visit with him. And he's such a cool man. And, he talked about ring announcers, and but when you talk Howard Finkel and Lillian Garcia,
by the way, Howard Finkel, the GOAT.
But you mentioned Gary Capetta.
Yeah.
You mentioned Dave Penzer.
Yeah.
And I really hate that I missed out. I was going to ask him what he thinks about Samantha Irvin, who I believe is already Mount Rushmore of wrestling announcer material.
Yeah. She does a great job, and she puts a little emotion into it sometimes, which I like. Yeah. Because, Howard was, I'm sure, told by Vince, don't show any emotion, pal. And, he usually didn't. Sometimes he went a little.
So I think Howard got to do whatever Howard wanted to.
Howard was, like I said, he's the GOAT. I miss Howard so much. I wish that WWE sometimes for like WrestleMania would just AI Howard's voice to announce the winner of the championship.
And Jason Camden. Jason Camden is a name that you should hear more of. He's an incredible ring announcer.
Yeah.
I mean,
Jason Camden.
And I'm not just saying that because he's in the chat right now. I mean,
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Hey, and I'm going to tell you what, ring announcing is not easy. I tried it. God bless David Fuller, IHWE in Fort Worth, Texas, Crowley area. We were doing he was putting on shows 2009, 2008. Whatever year the iPhone came out, he was looking for a ring announcer, and I'd been doing some refereeing, and he was putting on shows at the Mexican Bazaar.
Yeah.
In a very small room. But I told him, I said, I've never done any ring announcing. I'd love to give it a try. He said, well, come on down and try it. Yeah. So I just got an iPhone, and he emailed me the format. Okay. So I'm in the ring doing my ring announcing. And I don't know if anybody's noticed that. I mean, I'm not a great podcaster, so speaking is not my strong suit anyway. But
yeah.
I mean, when I make
you're like me, I got a face for radio and a voice for a library.
I mean, when I make what I lack linguistically, I make up for in enthusiasm. So I'm in the ring and I got the iPhone and I'm gonna read the format. Instead of holding cards, I'm gonna read it right off my phone because I got an iPhone. I'm one of the cool kids now. This is the first iPhone. Not everybody had them yet.
You made the switch from the BlackBerry.
So So I got it up, and I'm doing my introductions, and our good friend of the show, Mike Page, is in the crowd,
Yep.
and Mike Page starts calling me.
He's ribbing right out of the chute.
So I'm trying to read the damn phone. And he keeps calling me, and I don't even know if the first one had airplane mode. I didn't know nothing about it. I just knew that he was screwing with me hard, and it didn't really matter. And my good friend Richard Hill, who Aaron Eagle took out of action, and he had to go to the hospital after a severe beating by Aaron Eagle Saturday night at MPX. Richard Hill was there in the crowd, and David Fuller's Vengeance, David Fuller. So I went, Vengeance! And I looked at Richard Hill, and he was like, just shaking his head. No, Dave. I mean, like he was so embarrassed for me at that moment.
You're like Bucky. You know, your wiener dog, when he gets all mad, no one cares. That's kind of what you was. Vengeance! And everyone's like, okay.
Speaking of Bucky and Fritz, our wiener dogs, go over to Facebook and search The Iron Paw. I believe we stole that from Drew Reviews, if I'm not mistaken.
They got their own gimmick now?
And we have our wiener dogs have their own Facebook page. You can see Bucky trying to go for a takedown, and Fritz double pawing him down.
Well, I do want to say I saw some exclusive footage from the pond this week, and there was plenty of goose out there cruising around. And who come in and took care of shit? You can't tell him nothing. His name's Bucky. He's all of 6 months old, and he come in and cleared out all the geese.
Oh yeah, he'll run down there. He goes out. He'll run down there and chase them into the pond, and he don't care. There was 23 of them down there the other day. He went down there.
He ain't scared.
No, he's not scared. I'm so proud of him. When he does things like that, and makes me proud. I can overlook how much he craps on the floor.
Before the show started, for you guys that are hardcore listeners, a little peek behind the curtain. We were just talking about how I just had my French Bulldog just had 5 puppies last night, and Dave's got a puppy, and he's dealing with crate training right now, and so that's what we've been talking about before the show started. Our lives are exciting. We're trying to figure out how to train our dogs.
Well, I bought him a kennel, and it looks like a little miniature Hell in the Cell. The thing weighed 98 pounds. I had to carry it in. Yeah. 98-pound kennel. I know it weighed 98 pounds because that's what it says on the box.
And 98-pound Dave could barely carry it, everyone.
Well, I'm injured at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
My knee buckled and popped last Thursday.
Are you not going to be able to officiate any professional wrestling matches soon?
I'm concerned. I'm supposed to be going for a CAT scan because I can't have an MRI. We got past the therapy part of the injury. I went to the doctor today, and they think it's the meniscus, and I have to go get a CAT scan. So fingers crossed it's not too serious.
No shit. Teppy, can you put up Drew Review's last comment about the French Bulldog? He says, does your French Bulldog do the sharpshooter like Fritz does the paw? Well, I can tell you, I've not seen them do the French or the sharpshooter. However, my French Bulldogs, right now, I have 2. I'm gaining a 3rd, but they are named Owen and Ellie. So my French Bulldogs are named after Hart family members. So the 3rd is unnamed. So I'm taking suggestions, everyone. Brett has been ruled out. Yes, so Brett would be the first.
Name him Brett. Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Hey, a few weeks ago, I said our good friends over at the Kickout Crew, Brad Stanton, had mentioned they had talked about counterfeit money, and I told them, I said, on the next episode, I will show you the surefire way to make sure that you never take a counterfeit bill. Okay. And then I forgot because I'd be forgetting sometimes. But I remembered.
It'd be like that sometimes.
So I remembered and had to stop by my wife's purse to grab some money because I don't have any.
That's a crisp one. Abraham Lincoln's on the front of it too. Look at that.
But I'm going to show you a surefire way to never take a counterfeit bill. When you look on whoever's on the
lot,
and it doesn't matter if it's old money, new money. It doesn't matter if it's a $1 bill. It doesn't matter if it's a $100 bill. Whoever's picture's on there, you go to the lapel on what they're wearing. And if you'll take your thumbnail or your fingernail and you'll scratch it, you can feel ridges in the collar. If it's smooth, it's fake.
This is why you watch this show, for this type of information.
But you can't, the counterfeiters have not been able to counterfeit the ridges in the collars.
There it is.
It doesn't matter if it's an old $1 bill, $2 bill, whatever.
This man took a lot of fake money from crackheads in Dallas in the 1980s. He knows.
I'm going to tell y'all how I learned this bit of information. My brother had a bachelor party at a gentleman's club. And I was designated driver that night, so I wasn't drinking. Well, when you're in a strip club and you're not drinking, things that make you go,
you notice.
And when you're the only sober guy at the table, son of a gun, the dancers really actually don't mind talking to you. So I just said, hey, when you're doing a lap dance in the dark, how do you know you're not getting counterfeit money? And she showed me that little trick. And that's how. And
so you didn't learn from the grocery store, you learned from the strip club. Okay, just double check.
Well, so what I'm telling you is when you go to the store and you give the clerk $100 bill or a 50 or whatever, and they have to pick it up and look at it, and they make the big old production. They got to do it over their head, doing the whole big old production, checking your money. All they had to do was take their thumbnail and scratch that and keep going. And
Teppy, play the NBC music, The More You Know. Dum, dum, dum. That's what we just learned right there.
That's what we learned.
Yeah. Drew thinks kayfabe was just broke. So, well, before we go on, I want to say thank you all in the chat once again. I've seen all of your comments. It's been very fun. We hope you enjoyed, Dave Penzer here with us. It's been a blast. Dave, do we have any trivia or Dave's predicaments? Or
we did Dave's predicaments. I ragged on baseball earlier.
That thing, yeah. What we got? Anything left?
We do have trivia.
It's time for Amy's trivia. Think you have the facts? Let's play and see.
She may not be here, but she did her homework.
And we'll ask the lovely and talented producer of our show to jump in the Amy role and ask trivia questions.
It's about time we got Teppy on this show.
Hey guys. Okay, question one.
Hold on.
She's got a brick wall on there.
Teppy, you think I'm going to let you ask a question without saying happy damn birthday? It was Teppy's birthday recently.
Thank you. I had a wonderful day.
She's a brick house. She's mighty. Just letting it all hang out.
That's why I can't show it. Question one. Who wrote the foreword for David's new book, Sitting Ringside?
That would be Kevin Sullivan. He told us the answer in the interview.
Eric Bischoff, Kevin Sullivan.
Congratulations, because Justin finally paid attention on the show.
Well, I wanted to make an announcement. It was the first time, so I wanted to do that.
Golf clap for Justin paying attention.
Thank you. I'm gonna look. I'll take my hat off like I just hit a putt.
There you go.
Question two. David's wrestling fandom started after watching what promotion on TV with his cousin Jeff?
Oh, see, this part I didn't listen to. I don't know if he said
A, AWA. B, Georgia Championship Wrestling. C, Championship Wrestling from Florida. Or D, WWWF.
C.
Come on, Justin.
I'm going to go C.
I just asked him about it.
WWWF. I don't know.
No, a Championship Wrestling from Florida. I asked you what was your favorite
what I
match from
said.
Florida.
That was
and he
my
said
answer.
Midnight Rider.
I said that.
Well, he was from Florida. That's why.
I know. He was making me second guess my answer by saying, "Come on."
Be quiet, Dave.
Yeah, shut up
Question
over there.
3. Who gave David the nickname Walking Man? A, Dusty Rhodes. B, Joe Hamilton. C,
Oh.
Jim Ross. D, Junkyard Dog.
I don't
I'm
know
sure
Joe
Amy meant
Hamilton.
Jody Hamilton.
Yeah, I don't know Joe Hamilton, but I'm guessing Jody Hamilton seems like a possibility.
His
It was
close
the
friends
Junkyard
called him
Dog.
Joe.
Okay.
It was the Junkyard Dog.
Oh, it was Junkyard Dog?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Well,
I
it
know
is.
that because
You read the
I've read
book.
the book and you should too.
Well, you even admitted you didn't read you had to put it on audio.
No, I said this book isn't on audio. Oh, if this
He
book was
couldn't
on
find the
audio.
audio.
No, I'm saying if it was
Well,
on
I knew
audio,
that
I'd been
you
all over it already. But I actually read this one and enjoyed it.
I'm proud of you. All right.
He wasn't lying when he said he's too impatient to read.
I know. I have a lot of students that way too, and I want to kick them in the ass too, Tiffany. But that's another issue.
Willie Buck got it. Willie Buck got Junkyard Dog.
Good job, Willie Buck.
That's
Willie
right.
Buck, how's
Yeah,
it going?
Willie.
Tim Robinson's here. Drew reviews. Jason Camden. Darren Staley's been entertaining
Allison
the mess
Faye
out of
was
me.
here.
We got to. I keep saying we're going to get Darren Staley on.
Now, you said Jason Camden. That could be Andrea, too.
That's true.
Yeah. Don't be leaving her out.
Yeah.
Who was that? Never mind. I don't want to. I'm not going to put her on blast like that. But
All right. We got our question for her.
I saw Coach Keith Morrison was back. Amy
Yep.
popped in.
Yeah, Amy was on here.
Allison was here. All the regs for the.
Not one or two, but the whole damn crew, and we love you for it.
That's right.
And I'll circle back to what I love after trivia.
Question 4. Who asked David to be part of their team to help book WCW Saturday Night? Jimmy Hart, Arn Anderson, Tony Schiavone, or Eric Bischoff?
Jimmy Hart. Hey, baby, I think it was me.
I'm going to say it was Tony Schiavone.
Wrong.
Oh,
Bring it. Hey, baby, you got to rock by one of those. You need some beer, beans, and what is it? Beer and cans. That's what you need.
and beer, baby.
Question 5. How many years did David work for WCW? 9, 10, 11, or 12?
That's. I'm gonna let somebody in the chat. I know what it is, though.
Okay. I don't know what it is, and I'm going to try and talk myself through this. He was there in the 80s. It ended. I think he was there at the end. Maybe he wasn't. Close to the end. Yeah, he was. We talked about that. He was there at the end. 2001 to 86 or something, 89. Okay, 9. I'm going to say 12. It's probably 11.
Pond
I
water?
said 10.
Ding, ding, ding.
I put it in the private chat. So
10. He wasn't there in the 80s, so I was wrong. I thought he was.
All right.
now,
Question number. Whoops.
well, I'd give away the book.
Question 6. Fill in the blank. When receiving an autograph from Dave Penzer, what item does he draw at the end of his name?
I'm guessing a microphone. I don't know what else.
Yes, I'm gonna go with Justin on that. I think it was. I
At
think
the
I
end
saw
of my
him.
name, I draw a slapdick.
Microphone.
Hey.
Did he take over for Gary Capetta? Yes, he did, and it wasn't a given.
Gary
It's
Michael
a-
Capetta.
Gary Capetta took issue to Michael Buffer's enormous salary.
So he didn't give the same answer that
No,
we got tonight.
no, there's a fun story in there about Gary Capetta. I mean, how it all came together for Dave Penzer after Capetta exited it. It's fun. I'm not going to give it away.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 7. This is the last one. When is Sitting Ringside Volume 2 due to be released?
I believe October of 2024, I heard on the show today. Is that correct?
I didn't know that. I was just asking. I didn't know that it was actually a real thing.
Hey, that's two that I paid attention to and
But
remembered.
volume 1, I was like, it's volume 1, and there's got to be a volume 2.
That light bulb went off as he was sitting there asking questions.
Can't wait to.
Good job.
We didn't do
And
too
thank you to
bad.
Amy for doing trivia, even though she couldn't be here.
That's
It
right.
is easier when she's not here.
Amy, I will remember you. She'll be back next week, I'm sure. She'll get her a new internet line drawn into Mayfield, Kentucky.
I want to thank all of our I want to thank all of our subscribers to our YouTube channel. Well, thank you. No matter how you're watching, thank you. But we've really been trying to get we're focusing on that YouTube subscription. And last week we were just short of 400. I think we actually got to 400. We got to 400 as we did the show. Well, we're at 454 now. And the last 10 days, we've got over 70 new subscribers, and we can't thank you enough for that. And
We're at 455.
oh wow, I just checked it. It was 454, so we've already got another one.
It's running. It's going to the top.
But what I'm saying is, I appreciate y'all so much. Head over to our YouTube page now, because you can get classic wrestling content along with all of our Talking Wrestling with Palmwater Dave silliness shorts episodes. Currently, you can go over, you can see Gino Hernandez and Tully Blanchard versus the Masked Grapplers from Southwest Championship Wrestling. We have Jerry the King Lawler challenging Nick Bockwinkel for the AWA Championship from Memphis. We've got Bruiser Brody challenging Nick Bockwinkel for the AWA Championship with Bobby the Brain Heenan at ringside. People, a lot of people don't understand just how good Bobby Heenan was before he came out to the WWF.
The stuff with Nick Bockwinkel is if you've never seen it and you think you're a Bobby Heenan fan, you need to go watch his stuff with Nick Bockwinkel for sure.
We got Macho Man Randy Savage versus Ravishing Rick Rude from Memphis. Bruiser Brody and Abdullah the Butcher. We got David Von Erich versus Buddy Roberts. David Von Erich's last match in Texas was against the Missing Link in Fort Worth, Texas, and we have that too. So much classic content. We're adding it daily. And thankfully, y'all are responding to it. If you came to our channel for the classic content and you're joining us tonight for the show, thank you so much. We appreciate any feedback, even negative. If we're doing something wrong, we can't learn if you don't tell us. We do thank you so much for all that you do for us. It doesn't go unnoticed. We have bonus content available at the RAM Network. TheRamNetwork.com takes you to our Patreon. We're doing bonus content over there. World Class Flashback. Just put it in your mouth. I was there. man, there's just yeah, Drew, there's not much Fort Worth stuff at any of it that I have, I will post. But there's so much content going on over at the Ram Network. I mean, I'm trying my best to think. I don't want to leave anybody that's working hard over there out. Hard Times and Beyond. It's a revisit of the Crocker Turret Wrestling. So we'd be much appreciated if you checked us out on the Ram Network. Jumpinthepond.com is our merch store.
Do we need to sell belts this week, Dave? We haven't done that yet. Do we need to do that?
Thank you. I'm shilling so much for ourselves. I forgot about our sponsor, Big Time Belts. Big Time Belts, Facebook.com. They're making your championship dreams come true. If you're a promoter, don't send your wrestlers to the ring with toy belts with stickers on them. Take a little pride. You can spend very little money and get very high quality. We're looking at a custom North American championship here. The Louisiana Brass Knuckles Championship was a custom belt that was done. The Arkansas Wrestling Association's open weight champion came from Big Time Belts. The 1913 sorority, AEO Sorority Inc., they have a belt made. Our good friend Tim Robinson just said he's getting tag belts made real soon. Russell Chu, Hair Guru King, went to Big Time Belts. Summit Wrestling Association's crown champion. USW's tag team champions. The beautiful snakeskin backing. Our good friend Tim Robinson got his AMW belt finally made after all these years, turned around and got the junior heavyweight belt. And he just told us that he's going to get the tag belts. And good things going on over at Big Time Belts. Tell them that we sent you. We thank them so much for sponsoring our show.
Absolutely. Thank you, Big Time Belts. And go out there if you want a belt made for any reason.
If you just want one to wear around the house because it makes you feel like a badass, you do you.
Absolutely. So thank you guys so much.
Put that belt on, put your robe on, walk up to your wife while she's sitting in her chair watching TV or read, untie that belt, let her see that belt and say, untie that robe and show her that belt and say, the champ is here, baby. The champ is here.
Uh-huh. And that's when Teppy rips the belt off of Dave and hits him in the head with it. But that's fun too.
Hey, who am I to judge?
Well, are we ready to go home, Dave? Do we need to talk about anything else? Have we said it all and said enough?
Let's talk about what we got coming up next week.
Yep.
Next week on the big show from MPX Wrestling, we have Hilda. MPX has a big event coming at the Epic called The Purge. And next week, we'll have Hilda with us. The following week, Tuesday, June 4th, our friends from Rise Wrestling is going to join us. They have the World Heavyweight Champion, EC3, coming in. They'll be with us to talk about their big event that weekend.
Our friend Megan Nelson, I know, is involved with them a lot over there and doing some interviewing and announcing for them. So that'll be fun.
When she's not running marathons.
That's right.
Good job. Good job, Megan.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday, June 11th, Demo Diamond will be here from MPX Wrestling. So We're excited that we're going to get to have more MPX wrestlers on, and maybe we can get the scoop on what Aaron Eagle did to my good friend Richard Hill.
Yep. And our subscribers, as we mentioned, has been growing a lot this week. I hope if you are new subscribers, you see, if you get in the chat, your questions can be answered by people like David Penzer here. on the show. So please subscribe, hit that like and subscribe, the bell, and all that good stuff. And I think we're ready to go, right, Dave?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, David Penzer, of course, for being here with us.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I suck. I remembered everything else except for the sponsor. Thank you, Justin. TNA Top 10 this week.
Oh, we're doing board games.
We already did board games. We're doing
Oh, board games is over. Okay.
We're doing pizza toppings this week.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I saw that. Pizza toppings. That's going to be fun.
We're doing pizza toppings, and then our good friends over at the Filter Free Podcast.
What do you go, Dave? Before we go, let's just give a little tease toward the TNA Top 10 pizza toppings. What do you go with? If you order just for yourself, what are you putting on that bad boy?
If it's just me by myself, I get everything on there except for olives.
Okay, I respect that.
I
could
like
probably
olives.
do everything on a Supreme except for onions. I'm not an onion guy. But if it was my pick, I'm going pepperoni, mushroom, banana pepper. That's my classic topping right there for my pizza. But yeah, check out TNA Top 10, and they're going to discuss the top 10 pizza toppings of all time according to their survey.
I'm looking at the Filter Free Podcast, and I'm looking at their artwork, and I cannot see a year.
They're going to be doing something, and it's going to be fun. So
Wait a
check it out over there at the Filter Free Podcast. Podcast.
It says this week, Judd Nelson karate kicks a lady with or without a chair.
So it's in the 80s. It's the late 80s.
Royals legend George Brett hits home run number 300.
Royals legend. Home run number 300. Okay.
Then Kim Basinger runs out of money. Is she Catwoman or Vicky Vale? TJ has no idea. This week on the Filter Free Podcast.
Well, they our producer over saying it's 1993.
1993.
I thought it was earlier than that. But that's why you listen to the Filter Free Podcast. It reminds you of what was going on in those years. And that's what's so fun to listen to it, because it gives you a little bit of pop culture, a little bit of sports, a little bit of whatever was going on at that time. So,
hey, what about Drew Review says it's 1989.
That's what I was thinking, Drew. I was thinking like late.
Well, I know that Batman came out in 89.
Yeah.
But hey, speaking of NASCAR, Mr. Penzer talked about NASCAR right out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
And what'd you think about the fight?
Fan. I loved it.
That was a good fight.
I honestly, I didn't love it. I'm not one of those people that watches NASCAR. I've watched NASCAR now for 23 years without really missing too many races. I don't watch for fights and I don't watch for wrecks. However, something like that happens kind of just out of the blue. I don't really like either driver, so I was fine with it. So
here's the thing. I used to hate Kyle Busch, but then I realized that he's a lot like me. Second place sucks. It pisses me off. I don't want to come in second. I'd rather come in last than come in second. But so I kind of got to where I changed my mind about Kyle just because he hates losing as much as I do.
I still hate him. I've hated him his whole career.
But they're on the second lap of the race, and Stenhouse shoots up between Kyle and somebody else, and they go 3 wide, and he pushes Kyle up into the wall. And Kyle chases him down and wrecks him. So immediately he drives over and parks in Kyle's pit and goes up and has words with the crew chief and tell Kyle I'll be back.
3 hours or 2.5 hours.
So he's done gone, and he shot off his mouth that somebody is going to toe the ass whooping. So he can't leave because there's no tunnel at North Wilkesboro.
No,
he can't get out. So he has to stay till the end of the race because he can't leave early.
Right.
But he's done it, called his shot. And Kyle's not giving him the apology he's looking for.
He's not.
Kyle's talking. He just hauls off and pops him in the jaw. And then the fight
it was a surprise shot. It was like he had a whole kind of conversation with him, and then like out of the blue, he just
it was like, well, I said I had to do it. I damn sure didn't win any fights when I was dating Danica. So anyway, when Kyle came up off the tire, he fell over the tires, and then he came up, and then he's fighting with Stenhouse's dad.
With his dad,
and he starts whooping Stenhouse's senior's dad, and you hear Stenhouse holler, and he's hitting my dad. And then there's just somebody, crew chief guy, looks like the Hulk, just yeeting guys off the back of his truck. Get off my truck! Get off!
Every now and then, NASCAR becomes WWE Raw, and it's fun.
And then he's like, "I'm gonna get you at Charlotte." He goes, "I don't give a fuck."
We got a cliffhanger at the end of the show. Now we're going to next week, just like Raw. They just sold the cliffhanger.
But he's sitting there telling him, he goes, "I'm gonna get you at Charlotte." And Kyle goes, "I don't care." He goes, "I don't give a fuck. I suck. You suck. I suck. I suck too."
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was just like Kyle was like, "Who cares, man?"
This is my favorite NASCAR driver of all time, the Silver Bullet, Sterling Marlin. That's my boy right there.
He drove a John Wayne car at the Texas Motor Speedway once.
Well, in high
John
school,
Wayne on the back of it said, "Pick it up, Pilgrim."
My concern was in high school, I had to drink cheap beer, so I drank Coors Light. So he was my driver.
She checked. It's May 1993 FFP reviewed. So put that in your ass and smoke it, Drew Reviews.
Oh, damn. Drew's going to get a t-shirt. Put that in your ass and smoke it, Drew. Just like Dave got a Pucker Up t-shirt from A.
Hey, I would have thought Vicky Vale was in Batman in '89. I would have thought so too. That was the only clue that I...
Listen, here's the thing I know, Drew. Dave didn't post that. That was a producer, and you don't F with our producer. And that's been proven right there.
Hey, I'm going to tell you that maybe we're just pointing out that she...
Oh, that's Amy. Amy's over there producing.
Oh, that's Amy doing that. Well, now it makes sense.
Some NASCAR research on your ass over there.
Well, now it makes sense because I didn't never know my wife could get her ass on her shoulders that way.
Well, Amy just created 2 t-shirts. Pucker Up Asshole and the other ones. That's great.
If it isn't something that Kim Basinger got that sweet, sweet Batman money in '89 and was broke by '93.
I know.
She likes to party. Take us home, Justin.
Well, my favorite thing about that movie in 1989 was my second favorite actor of all time, Jack Nicholson, who was fantastic as the Joker. But we had a fantastic time with David Penzer tonight, and we hope you did too. We want to thank all of you who listened, for David Penzer, for Teppy, our producer, for Amy, who's dealing with some internet over there, for Pondwater Dave, and for myself. We're saying take care of yourself and each other. So long, everyone.